Hello, BookTube. As you can see, I have a guest. This is Sarah from the Bookish Knitter.
Hi, BookTube.
You told me just a minute ago that you hit a milestone on your channel,
2,500.
2,500 subscribers.
Yep. Yep.
And, to introduce you to viewers who might not know who you are, you mostly concentrate on romance on your channel,
About 80% of what I read is romance. Yes. Yes.
and there's a romance community on
Oh, there's a
YouTube, right?
huge romance community now. Not when I started, but now over the last 3 years or so, it's really boomed and it's fantastic to see.
So without wanting to toot your own horn, you were something of a trailblazer.
I like to think so.
And would I be right in guessing that you have received some snobbish pushback over that time?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Probably that any snobbish pushback that you got on BookTube was just an echo of the same kind of stuff that you've got in your own real life.
Yeah, and then I mean, I it's within the more serious readers, who read more literary fiction, know how read more than just romance. But even within the romance community itself, some of the things that I focused on years ago are looked down upon. So it's weird.
That's true, isn't it?
It is.
There are
It is.
parts of the romance community people who read romance novels who still look down on, for instance, Harlequin or Mills and Boon.
Yes. Yes, the category romance is a big, a big bit of but it's becoming a bit more now. I think people are actually starting to realize, oh, these are good. Yeah, I've been saying that for 20 years.
So I have a, a series of questions to try and keep this contained so that you and I just don't natter for 4 hours. Although there are going to be people in your comment section and mine who are going to say, "Please natter for 4 hours."
Pretty much. We'll have to plan this on a better day.
The first question, I have a series of romance and booktube related questions, but of course, the first question that I want to ask you is the question that everyone, literally everyone in the Northern Hemisphere is asking, which is, how's the weather?
How's the weather? It's snowing. We have
It's
snow. Had
snowing
to
here
clean
too.
off the car again today. Yep. I'm in Canada. That's kind of the way it goes.
But Canada, you have sent us a gigantic wedge of cold weather.
Yep.
Ordinarily, you send it to the Dakotas and you consider your job done. This one that's all the way to the Gulf of Mexico.
I was
Whole
laughing with
swath of
this.
this country are
Oh
dealing
yeah, are
with
freezing.
Canadian weather that they've never felt before.
But me though, I am a lot further south than most of Canada. Like I am pretty much on par with San Francisco if you go across like Toronto, right? I'm not like I know Fargo, North Dakota is far further north than I am. So I got to think about that too, that it's not as cold for me as some people.
People tend to forget that. They think that all of Canada is north of all of America.
Pretty much, yeah. Filled with
So,
moose and igloos.
so my first question for you as the recognized grandmaster of romance on BookTube is, why don't people read romance novels?
I think that they don't read it because they don't there's a snobbishness to snobbish. They don't think they're as well written. They don't think the characters are as developed. The storylines aren't as developed. They don't delve into the deeper issues. Some of them, yes, some of them are light and fluffy, and you know the ones that I'm talking about. Some of them are just a fun escapist read. But I have read some books that touch on some very difficult topics and difficult situations. So it's no different than any other book that you would read. It just so happens to usually end in a happily ever after, which I think we all need right now.
Yes, because the fluffy escapism, even the fluffy escapism, the authors who are watching will know right away that's not easy to do.
No, it's not.
And so many romance novels do it so well. You can rely on it when you do
Yes, yes, yes.
that.
You know what you're getting into.
So are you saying that you think that a lot of people don't read romances because of just bad PR?
Perhaps. And I also think that I don't have one close to me. I think now with the resurgence, I have a
Don't.
big gripe. Yeah, I know, not within grabbing distance. I have a big gripe now with these cartoonish covers. I truly think they are doing a disservice to the genre.
Yeah.
I read a book last week that had that very cartoonish cover. It was by Alicia Rye, called The Right Swipe, and it dealt with sexual misconduct in the workplace, with a football player who deals with brain injuries after getting tackled one too many times. I mean, these are hard topics, but yet it's in this pretty pink cover that just, do you know,
It also dealt with the corrosiveness of online dating, didn't it?
correct, correct,
I had a
yes,
publicist tell me, come out and
yep,
tell me. She came out and said, please don't judge this by its cover. So
yeah,
why do publishers commission these covers?
yeah,
They could commission something else.
exactly, exactly. And the other big one that was out a couple years ago, The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang.
Yes.
That book was very explicit. I mean, which doesn't usually bother me. I found it shelved in the YA section of my bookstore. And I argued with the people at Chapters Indigo. I'm like, this is not, believe me, this is not YA. But they're like, but look at the cover. But no. So I think that does, it's a two-way street. For one, it gets people who haven't, who maybe are those YA readers who are graduating into adult literature, to perhaps pick these up. But on the other hand, to those more seasoned romance readers, we think of them as just, this is ridiculous, you know?
Yeah, I remember when those cartoon covers took off.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they started, when you got the
Mm-hmm.
first few of them in mass market paperback romances, where suddenly
Yep.
it wasn't a painting or even a photo cover. It was just, uh, you know, cartoon drawings. I remember I was talking to a romance fan at the time, and she said, I am an atheist, and I am going to pray to Jesus tonight. And I said, "Why?" And she said, I'm going to pray to Jesus. This does not catch on.
Exactly.
He wasn't
Exactly.
listening because it did.
And I mean, they're not new. That's the other thing, is a lot of people are like, oh, these are the new big thing. I have Harlequin novels going back 20 years that did those covers. But those books were romantic comedies. So
Yes,
you knew what you were getting into. It
right,
was perfect.
right.
It made
Whereas now
sense.
you'll see them on books where one of the main characters has severe Tourette's, things
Yes.
like that, and you just
I just, and again, I'm not looking for a dark and gloomy cover, but the marketing on them is not good. Let's just put it that way.
well, that brings me to my second question is kind of a subset of my first one, which is why hasn't Harlequin hired you to fix these problems? Why haven't they done that? You could fix these problems in a heartbeat without losing your audience. Oh, what happened? What happened? I lost your audio.
Sorry, my mom's vacuuming in the hallway. I apologize.
For one brief moment, I had Steve's fondest dream, a Zoom chat where no one else had audio.
And as to your question, why hasn't Harlequin hired me?
Or
Mainly because
somebody could have Harlequin.
they don't have a job called super fangirl. There's nothing.
They could invent a job called ambassador.
Right, right. I
And it
mean, I
doesn't have to be
do
them.
work
It
with,
could be St. Martin's. St. Martin's
yeah.
publishes a huge amount of romance every year.
Oh yeah. I mean, I am part of the Read Bliss team, but that's it is part of Harlequin, but it's not. You know, it's, they kind of focus on everything. But yeah, I've loved them for 20 years.
So what just to get back to the moment to the condescension that is part of the experience that anybody who reads romance novels. I didn't read romance novels for years and years and years, and then a romance reader told me, "You're being a snob. The
Mhm.
These are well put together, extremely effective
Mhm.
escapist reads, and the
Mhm.
ladies who write them, I've heard you talk. This young woman told me, I've heard you talk to people, to would-be writers, about the discipline they need
Mhm.
and how they have to get over it and just write every day. These women embody that, and you don't
Mhm.
read these books. You're just being a snob about it."
Yep.
And I felt terrible about that, so I started reading them, And a month after I started talking, a month after romance titles started appearing among the books I recommended,
Mhm.
people who had known me for decades started saying, "Oh, you like the light, fluffy stuff, do you?" The same people who, who had been taking recommendations from me for editions of Thucydides in Greek
Yep.
were suddenly saying, "Oh,
Yep.
you like the fluffy stuff." It's like a switch.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyone who's watched your channel knows that you don't give these things a complete hall pass. If they
Mm-mm.
fail, then you're all
Mhm.
over them. So
Exactly.
why is that? Where does that come from?
I don't know. I don't
And
know.
for
And
you to say
it's
that it even happens in the romance community itself.
yes. Yes. Oh goodness, yes. There's such dividing lines within the romance community, of what constitutes as good literature or a good romance and it pretty much at the end of the day I judge a romance novel no different than I would judge a historical fiction novel. How was the time setting? How was the plot? How were the characters? Were these believable? There's occasions where you give stuff a bit of a pass. In historical romance, I like to say that historical romance exists in in another dimension. It's our world, but it's just slightly skewed because you know as well as I do, Steve, the stuff that happens in those books would have never happened in Regency England. Never, never, never.
No.
So it's almost like it's happening, but just outside of what convention allowed, and they're taking
Right.
leeway, and
And
that's okay.
enough, some of that is
Yeah.
fine. If an author can go too far.
Oh,
But
absolutely, absolutely.
I always get a kick out of it on your channel when you're enthusing about a book, and then you enthuse about another book, and then the third book comes along, and suddenly your enthusing face goes away.
Yeah,
The kiss of death for a romance on your channel is when you say, "I don't think so."
I don't think so. No.
That is just the kiss of death. The book's not gonna come back from that.
And I mean, and times have changed a lot too now. Like you did that book haul I was watching last night where you were
Oh,
some of the old Apache would never
yeah,
see that today. Never see
they
that
were
today.
so
And they
prevalent.
were huge.
Yeah,
My aunt loved them. She used to read them, like gobbled them up.
yeah,
And consent issues now, of course, and I'm not downgrading it. And yes, that needs to be a thing. But I think some people are going to start going back and reading some of the really old stuff and judging it by today's standards, which you have to be careful with that,
yeah, because you
right?
throw out a lot of great entertainment. If you do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I read an old Regency, just a couple of weeks ago, and the conclusion that the would-be lovers, fight like cat and dog for the whole of the book, but the conclusion is her assuming a kind of childlike deference
Hmm.
to the man.
Hmm.
He calls her little one and baby,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she eventually says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I was being such a goose," and she falls into his arms. And I loved the book, but I was thinking, "Oh,
Oh, this wouldn't fly now.
no, no, no. You're not becoming her father."
No, I ew.
But you look at those older romance covers, the men are 20 years older.
Oh,
And
easily. Easily. Diana Palmer is still one who does that a lot. It seems to be like her shtick that she writes big age gap romances where the woman tends to be a bit younger and he's a bit older, more established. But that's her thing, and I know going into her books, that's what I'm going to read.
yeah,
And I have friends who just love her stuff, and that's great.
yeah,
It's
they're
it's
well
not
done.
bad. It's
It
just
You
that's
notice
her
it.
thing.
You definitely notice it. Sensibility is
Yeah.
the thing.
Oh
Same
yeah.
thing with age gap, same thing with power gap.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't think that Betty Neals could be offensive in any way, but
Oh
there is
my
no
gosh.
such thing in her novels as
No.
power equality. None
Mm-mm.
whatsoever. It's
Mm-hmm.
always the doctor who marries the nurse, and the nurse is
Yes.
always a woman.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
Exactly.
if we went back in time and told an 80-year-old Betty Neals who's writing 5 books a month, if we went back in time and told her that men can be nurses, I think she would have died right out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
But okay, my next question is, we've covered a little bit of why people don't read romances. Now I want to get to the good stuff. Why should people read romance?
Because they're amazing. Full stop. No, in all reality, I mean, I've been reading romance for 20 plus years now, and I have run the gamut. I mean, there's some areas of romance I won't delve into. The very deep and dark stuff holds no interest for me. I want light. I not light because I do read stuff like I said that Alicia Rye deals with workplace sexual harassment. I wasn't expecting that. And the one I'm actually reading right now, the Chai Factor, it's set in Toronto and it deals with Islamophobia. But it's a romance between a Muslim girl and a white guy, a Protestant white guy. And is it ever good? Because I think that the thing with romance, you are always going to find something that you're interested in. If you like fantasy, read a fantasy romance. If you like paranormal, read a paranormal. If you like historical, pick up a historical romance. Just dip your toes in and try it because you're going to come across duds. It happens. Everything that any of us read, you're going to come across duds. But the majority of it is really good. These women and men who write this stuff do a fabulous job at the happily ever afters.
And the happily ever afters.
Or the happy for nows, as we've started to say. The happy for nows is a big, because actually they, no spoiler alerts, but the right swipe ended in a happy for now. There was no big declaration of love at the end. It was just, we're happy together, book is over, which
Right.
I do like that too.
Yeah, they almost always, no matter what you're reading, they almost always send you away with a smile.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I
There's
don't
that
know.
sense of something at the end.
Some readers just look down on that. They think there's got to be more to it than that. Literature has to make you feel
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that look at any book that you've read. Harry Potter, any of the big YA stuff outside of Twilight, but like A Court of Thorn and Roses, they all have love stories in them, but nobody talks about that part of it. Like, or if they do, it's to complain.
And the point you make is so good that no matter what kind of books you like that aren't romances, you will find that kind of book in romance novels. I had a
Absolutely.
friend who loved gigantic historical epics. And I was thinking of, what was her name? Catherine Cohn, Through a Glass Darkly.
Yes.
Huge thing that was,
Yes.
just so, I don't remember the title, but it was so good. But I was edging my way towards suggesting that for this person as a romance novel, and they were
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Oh no, I know what you're going to say, that there'll be long historical epics in romance novels. No, I don't want that." And I very politely said, "Didn't you tell me last month that one of your favorite books is Gone with the Wind?" It was like a totally different language. Whoa, what? But I had an old friend who was a medieval literature professor.
Mm-hmm.
He was baffled by my love of romance novels
Oh
and
yeah.
said, "All right, to shut you up, I will read one of these." I gave him one, and I'll never forget his comment. His comment was, "So I'm just supposed to enjoy this?" He finished it and said, "Well, so that's all? I'm just supposed to read it and enjoy it?" I said, "Yeah,
Yeah.
you're just supposed to
Yeah.
read it and enjoy it." And he did.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the great part about them is that you can just read them and enjoy them. Yes, some of them, might delve into deeper topics, but overall, at the end of the day, it's truly reading for entertainment. It's not a nonfiction that you've got to put extra thought in. And I'm not saying I'm making it sound like it's brain candy, but you know as well as I do that it's not.
Yeah, you'll have damaged characters
Oh
who
my
do
goodness,
serious
yes.
psychological damage that
Oh,
is not treated
absolutely.
lightly at all.
No, no, no. Some of these things that these characters deal with, and you know the the Bridgerton. I know the Bridgerton one is a big deal right now with the Netflix show, which was so good. But the
Almost
second
perfect.
book,
It's almost
almost,
perfect.
almost.
I had my heart in my throat when I watched the first one, thinking of all the ways you could screw this up.
Oh, I know, I know.
And instead, oh,
But it
oh,
was so good. But the second book in the series, have you read the series, Steve? Okay, so the second book, you know about Anthony's character and what he deals with his father's death. And the author's note at the end of that book, where she talks about how men deal with this losing their fathers early and what it does to them sometimes psychologically, which is what Anthony dealt with in the book, I cried because it's something that you don't think about. Like it delves into these topics and stuff that's personal to the author. And oh, it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy.
and of course we're talking about psychological damage and other dark issues. That doesn't even get into some of the even more serious issues like Beverly Jenkins is dealing
Oh
with.
my goodness, she is.
I'd like to see somebody who dismisses romance walk up to her at a convention and say your book's a flop. I'd like to see them do that.
Her stuff, when I read Indigo last year, oh my, I think Steph at Steph's Romance Book Talk, she coined it so well. She said she does edutainment. So education and entertainment, like you, but it's, you learn so much about the time period without being hit over the head with it. It's done so well, you know?
Yeah.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
So you actually elbowed into another one of my questions, which is inevitable, of course, for if you talk to anyone who is in any way connected with romance, and you aren't just connected with romance, you're the number one queen bee of romance. In 2021, if you're talking to anyone even remotely connected with romance, you have to ask about Bridgerton. What do you think about the fact that suddenly this phenomenon is reaching thousands of people who never thought about romance before?
Her books are sold out. She didn't hit the New York Times bestseller list when the books first came out, but now she has. And it's just, I mean, I was, like you said, I was so nervous going into the show. I'm like, please don't screw this up, because that series was my gateway into historical romance.
For
The
so
Duke
many,
and I was the first one I ever read.
and
I
her
mean,
novels crack. They
oh my
crackle.
God.
And that is so hard to convey on the screen, but
Yes.
it has to be there. It
Yes.
can't just be this. Can't just be sitting there. You have to have that.
Yes.
And I was
And
reading
it
through that
was,
whole first episode, thinking,
oh,
okay, the casting director chose for the main character a little wisp of a girl,
yes.
which is daring in its own
Yes.
right. And that's fine. And of course, there's the huge controversy over the choosing of the male lead.
Oh yeah,
For
yeah. But
all the
he
obvious
was,
dumb reasons. You have to, but I didn't care about any of that. I was watching that first episode thinking, okay, but when their eyes meet, it has to crackle. If it doesn't,
oh,
the whole thing fails. And it
that's
does.
right. That's right.
It does.
And I'm getting such a kick out of watching, listening to people talking about it who have not read the books and are going on and on about Penelope and Colin. I'm like, you need to wait. It's the fourth book. You need to wait.
That's another thing that people who don't read romance novels aren't familiar with, the fact that authors will often spool out these multiple plots.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
you love a minor character in one book,
Mm-hmm.
if you're familiar only with mainstream literature, you'll
Yep.
think that's all I'm going to get of them.
Yeah.
If
Exactly.
you're not, it's chances are
No.
very likely that you're
No.
going to get a whole
No.
book.
And I mean, that series, it set the bar high because it was the first one I read. And the banter, she can write dialogue like nobody's business. The Paul Mall scenes in the second book, and I think in the fourth, are hands, they're my favorites. The Black Mallet of Death. I mean, if that doesn't make an appearance in season 2,
Oh,
I will be rioting.
but you see, that's kind of was one of my points, is that
Yeah.
there are so many, you know, so-called serious wannabe authors who are talking about craft and pacing, and they
Yep.
always have a moment to spare, a condescending moment to spare about dialogue.
Yep.
And if you tell them, if they say to you, well, give me some good examples, maybe Pynchon, maybe Gaddis. I always want to say, well, I've got a couple of other writers in mind
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
do dialogue really well, but you're not going to like hearing their names.
No. No. Julia Quinn, Tessa Dare, Jill Shalvis.
Oh, Tessa Dare. Oh my.
Yes.
But do you think that's going to happen now? You know what the entertainment industry is like. You know that a whole room full of lawyers is looking at Bridgerton and thinking, okay, are there any other romance authors?
Yeah. Let me introduce you to a few. Yeah.
I know they just discovered it as a genre. They're thinking, does anybody else write this stuff?
Oh my gosh.
So do you anticipate a flood?
I think it could happen. I think now after the success of Bridgerton, it could happen. But it was also, I also found, I watched Bridgerton the entire. You seen it? I watched it all with my mother. Which at some scenes you're like, okay. But it was very sexualized, I found. Now the books, yes, do get steamy, but not to that extent. I think that they pushed the envelope on the show a little bit, but that's fine. It is what it is. But I mean, there are a wealth of books. Like you see a lot of Hallmark movies now are being made out of romance novels. But to do full-length series like Bridgerton,
It was a gamble.
Yeah, big time. I mean, you're devoting 8 hour-long episodes to a 350-page book. There were so many things that were pulled in from other books. I noticed that. Do you know what I mean? That, and I just kept thinking to myself, how are you going to continue on with following seasons when you've already done this? So that's my concern going forward with the show.
Sorry, I got a bit distracted because there was an enormous
An enormous black
black
cat.
shadow in the background, and that is Goran himself, is it
That's
not?
the beast. Yeah.
My beast is very
Yeah.
sedate.
Hello, Frida.
She's just laying there on her Afghan. She is philosophically, morally, and politically opposed to snow.
I appreciate that.
But yours just Goran just stalks around. Is that what he does?
Yeah. When you're that big, that's what you do. He's 30 pounds.
Oh my God, he's 20 pounds heavier than my dog.
Yeah.
Oh, oh my.
He's our house panther.
Well, I worry that if I bring up too many more pointers, we'll just go on all day.
I still have a half an hour.
Oh, so just to finish up on Bridgerton, just for a bit, I was worried that I was going to hear from the the alt-right neckbeard commentary section of YouTube about casting a black man in
Mhm,
the lead in a romance. I was worried that I was going to hear about that. Turns
mhm.
out they don't care about romance. They don't care whether it's anything at all.
Exactly.
I was worried I was going to hear that it was just empty virtue signaling.
Mhm.
When I'd be willing to bet they just took the most talented guy they could get, because boy, oh boy, does he
They
consume the
did
screen.
exactly what was done in Hamilton. They just picked the best character or the best actor to play that character, and I mean, he was perfect. He was the perfect Simon.
So if this does cause roomfuls of lawyers to say, what else can we throw money at? What would you like them to do?
Oh gosh, I would love to
If you
see
had
the
to pick
Heartbreaker
one
Bay
series.
series.
Which
The
one?
Heartbreaker
Heartbreak Bay series?
by Jill Shalvis. That is a must. That would be amazing. One of her books, the second book in the series, was turned into a made for TV movie that was on Passion Flix. I've never heard of this before, but when I interviewed Jill Shalvis last month, she talked about it. So
You're a bit of a Jill Shalvis fangirl,
I'm
aren't
a huge Jill Shalvis fan. Huge Jill Shalvis fan. I love her stuff. It's just so quirky and so much fun.
you? Do you think I had a brief hope that the success of Bridgerton would help with the things we've been talking about? That it would maybe be a calling card to people who wouldn't think of picking this up.
Hmm.
When I watched those first few episodes, I immediately thought of that old friend, the medieval history
Yep.
professor, whose reaction was, "I'm just supposed to enjoy it." Yes, there's
Yeah.
a whole body
Yep.
of literature out there that you're just
Yep.
supposed to enjoy.
Yep.
It might bring in heavier stuff, but
Hmm.
it's good. It means to send you away with a smile.
Yep.
And of course, a lot of those old Regency romances that I love, that's all they do. That's
Absolutely.
A lot of them don't bring in
Absolutely.
any heavier stuff at all.
No, no, they're just meant to be enjoyed and loved and, you know. But like I said, you can't find the Julia Quinn books now on the shelf. You can't find them. They're sold out. It's like people watch it. Wait a minute, there's books. You know, like these are based off of books.
As well, as you said, welcome to my library.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure that that happened as well with Game of Thrones. Like, you know, I remember when that was a big thing and everybody was freaking out because the season ended and oh my god, how are we going to find out what happens next season? I'm like, you do know there's books, right?
I
You could read ahead.
wonder if that'll be true with this big extravaganza movie of Dune. I wonder if there'll be lots of young people who won't know that it was ever a book.
Oh yeah, it's surprising the amount that, you know, people don't that aren't readers, that they just watch and that, I mean, that's fine, whatever. But even if it gets a handful of people, if Bridgerton gets a handful of people to pick up a book that they may have never done that before, excellent.
It's a reminder that the snobbery that readers show to the genre of romance is a reflection of the snobbery that the rest of the world shows towards reading.
Yes. Yes,
Nobody
absolutely.
reads. It's the thing we forget in
Yeah.
booktube. Nobody reads.
No,
Nobody
it's
knows.
true.
Nobody ever goes to a bookstore. Nobody ever knows that anything is a book.
No,
Nobody ever
no,
sits down and reads.
no, no. And it's really it's bigger than you think. The amount of people who don't read is bigger than you think.
I know it's incredible. That yeah, I have to it's always a bit of a shock for me because my world is so completely bookish. But
Same.
you step out of that world, you meet someone who hasn't read anything since they were forced to do it in high school
Yeah.
and has
Yeah.
no plans
Yeah.
to ever do it.
Yeah.
Considers it a torture.
Oh yeah.
Mm,
But it's not. I just feel like you haven't found your niche,
yeah,
what you like.
there's a
You know,
way
I
in.
have
There's a way
a
in for almost anybody.
exactly. I have a girlfriend who she hated reading, doesn't read. And she finally decided during quarantine I should really do some reading. She started delving through all the old Murder She Wrote books because she loved the TV show. So she was reading, and there's like 1,000 books, right? So then I was saying to her, I go, well, try a cozy mystery. You might like, and now that's it. She's done. She's, this is fantastic. And that's all you needed was that toe in,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
if that's just fine, that's
Mhm.
perfectly fine. But if let's say you read 50 cozy mysteries, and then maybe you want to try something a little bit harder, a little bit darker,
Exactly.
there are thousands
Exactly.
of books out there just waiting for you. And maybe one
Absolutely.
of those harder or darker things is set 70 years ago.
Hmm.
And maybe that makes you think you might try a historical novel, or there are plenty
Exactly.
out there.
Exactly. Exactly.
So what you're saying is that we are essentially drug dealers.
Essentially, yes. The first one is free. After that, you're
The
paying
first
for
one
it.
is free. And we'll be right there saying, "Hey, don't quit me now, baby."
That's right. There are more of these.
So how is your you mentioned quarantine. How is reading going in your own quarantine?
Oh my gosh, I'm reading like crazy. Well, I've been working from home exclusively since early January. We're at stay-at-home orders here in the city of Toronto, and the announcement is coming today that they're probably going to keep us stay at home for at least another 2 weeks because we're dealing with a lot of the variants right now in Toronto, those UK
Really?
variants and things. But in
Oh,
the
really?
business, oh yeah,
Getting
we've
more
got,
of those than the US is.
oh yeah, they're huge here. The
And
UK
some of those are
variants,
bad, right? Some of
they're
them
they're
are looking
very
like
quick moving.
yeah, they're much more communicable, and I
Yes,
little rumors here and there that they're also more serious.
yes, and I have to be extra cautious, so I will
They're
just stay in my bubble.
immunocompromised. Yeah, you have to stay in your bubble.
I'm fine with that. But
So,
no, it's been great.
what are Toronto's numbers like just in general?
Yesterday we were well, the city of Toronto was like at 400 cases for the day, and the province they update the numbers every single day. We're over 1,000 in the province of Ontario,
Mm,
which I mean, really, we don't have that many people in Ontario.
yeah,
Less than half the population of New York, maybe. New York City.
Massachusetts numbers are plummeting, but
Oh, really?
Massachusetts is largely in a bubble. There have been almost no reports of variants of any kind,
Really?
and those will
Really?
screw up the numbers.
Yeah.
Once a variant or more than one hits a population that's already tired of staying indoors,
Oh yeah.
that's
Oh
trouble.
yeah. Oh
That's
yeah.
real trouble.
Yeah, we're over 1,000. The announcement just came in.
Oh my.
1,150 yesterday in Ontario.
Well, I don't have it's snowing like the dickens here, so I don't have any plans on going outside anyway.
No, me neither.
I took Frida out to the back stoop and saw the snow and was just, "No, no, 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 no." It
Yeah.
always breaks my heart a little because dogs always look up to you as if, "No, change this." And I can't do it. That's the look on her face is, "No, I don't like this. Could you please change this?"
Like, I'm sorry, there's nothing much that we can do about the weather.
So
It is what it
so
is.
to wrap up here, to let you get onto your day, what is on your romance docket right now?
Right now, because it is February, I am focusing on authors of color, which I have been so enjoying. Um, I've got a bunch of Harlequins I'll be reading next week. A Naima Simone, who's fantastic. Um, Gosh, I'm drawing a blank now. Oh, I've got Talia Hibbert. Um, uh, uh, the Danny Brown one, the second book in the series, because the third one comes out later. And I am listening to, because I always have an audiobook on the go, Sonalia Dev, who I love. She is fantastic. Her Bollywood series, if you have not read it,
I have
it's
not.
amazing.
I've
Oh
seen.
my gosh, it's amazing.
Is it really good?
Yeah, the first two books are a little bit more fluffy. It's Indian American, and they're like kind of deal with arranged marriage and things like that. But the third book that I'm on now, which you can read outside of the first two, is called A Change of Heart. And it's about in India, people being killed for their organs. It's a romance novel. And it deals with, organ, black market organs. I'm not kidding. It's amazing. It's so good. I think you'd like them, Steve. Check them out.
I'll have to do that. And it's so typical. It's so pathetic that my first response was, I'll have to see if somebody can send me one of those for free. It's like I've forgotten how to use legal tender. I could go and buy one of these things. My first response is, oh, somebody will have to send me that.
You want me to spend my own money on books?
No.
I don't follow you. There is also this thing called the library,
Yes.
Steve.
Yes. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. I'll have to get over that. I will go and buy one of them, I think is the word. I'll go and buy
But she's great. She also wrote, if you've never read her before, she also is doing a series right now where she does retellings of Jane Austen novels, but as Indian American. The first one was called Pride and Prejudice and Other Flavors.
I saw that.
Yes.
It's the same author. Okay.
Yes. Delightful.
They sound
Delightful.
perfect. I used to live in India, and they sound perfect.
Oh, the way she does her characters, it's just amazing. I love her to death. I love her books.
I'm so envious. All of my morning is going to be spent with Philip Roth.
Oh.
The exact opposite of romance in every conceivable way. Every conceivable way.
Oh, I got to go to work, Steve. So, don't feel too bad. At least you get to sit and read. TGIF, though.
Yes. Yes. Well, we have to do this again.
Yes.
Let's and also maybe you can talk me through the tech of how to post this on both our channels. There's got to be a way to do that.
You can send me the file, I think, or you can send it via Google Drive or Dropbox. I can probably post it.
So I use the Telegram. We'll wrap up the video and then you can walk me through.
That sounds good.
In primary colors.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you
for the chat. We'll talk again maybe next week. There's so much more to talk about. In the meantime, I've got to take the bean outside.
Yes, she looks so enthused.
It's a battle of wills. She's not going to like it. Anyway, have fun up there in the snow. I'll see you soon.
Same to you. Thanks, Steve.